Hey everyone, Chris Carter here on the North Shore Drive podcast. I'll be joined by Ray Fittipaldo. As always, this show is brought to you by Edgar Snyder Associates. Do they also do workers' compensation when you've been hurt on the job? Who decides when you're better? Who decides when your treatment's over? Who decides when your benefits are over? The answer might surprise you. It's actually the insurance company's doctors. How does that make you feel? If the answer's not great, call Edgar Snyder Associates today at 1-800-94-EDGAR. They'll fight for the workers' compensation rights you deserve. Remember, there's never a fee unless they get money for you. We apologize for the inconvenience and we ask you to pardon our dust. We had some technical difficulties, so there's going to be some audio sync issues with this episode, but we talk about a lot here, myself and Ray Fittipaldo, what the Steelers have got going wrong on defense and why Aaron Rodgers wasn't as efficient on offense here on today's episode of the North Shore Drive podcast. Take a listen. Ray, both of our reviews after the game focused a lot on the defense. You gave some failing marks on the defensive side, on the coaching side. I was pointing out how last year the Steelers had the second best third down defense in the NFL. Through 2 weeks, they're ranked 23rd, and those third down failures came at some crucial points. The more and more I look, this defense is supposed to be based on winning matchups, on saying, hey, you know what, we can just line up across from you and beat you straight up. But that's not happening across the board enough right now, and that's leading to the problems. A lot of the third downs were plays where a guy is in the right situation, he's in the right play call, he's just losing. And that, to me, could be a warning sign if that continues for the rest of the season.
Yeah, Chris, I mean, one thing that I've noticed with this defense, and listen, we always hear from the coaches and the players, right, that coverage and pass rush work together. You know, one can't be great unless the other is really effective too. And it just seems like with this secondary, with how old they are, right? Jalen Ramsey, over 30. Slay is in his mid-30s. Thornhill, Chuck Clark, all these guys are older. I think they need a more effective pass rush to be really good in coverage. And right now it just seems like the pass rush is maybe just a step off from getting a hit on a quarterback or getting a sack, and the coverage just isn't tight enough. Now, you know, Jalen Ramsey had a big interception. He also made a few other plays, but, you know, he was also in coverage on the first touchdown and in, you know, some of the big third down completions. So it's like Mike Tomlin says, it's popcorn. You know, it's not every single down. You know, they're executing sometimes. They're not just executing all the time. And I think these teams, the Jets and the Seahawks, have been taking advantage of that.
They certainly did. And again, like when you're lining up, you know, one-on-one Jalen Ramsey against Jaxson Smith-Njigba, we're expecting him to win that matchup. You're expecting him to limit that there. If not making the play on the ball, at least just saying, hey, this is going to be a much tighter throw for you, Sam Darnold. And Sam Darnold was able to find his space. And I also got to give kudos to Sam Darnold, because when the Steelers picked him off twice and twice in short order, I thought that was the beginning of the end for the Seahawks, at least just with Sam Darnold, because I've seen that guy crumple in a lot of situations. But he stood tall. He was able to bounce back. And again, he found opportunities where the Steelers made mistakes. You know, you go back to their last touchdown drive of the game. You got a 3rd and 9. You call it the right blitz. It gets Patrick Queen a clear path to the quarterback untouched, and he doesn't bring him down, and he spins out. Payton Wilson's then put on an island where he has to choose, do I pressure the quarterback? Do I stick with the tight end? He presses the quarterback. Darnold floats it over him, and it's a big gain that convert on 3rd and 9. If they get that stop, the Steelers get the ball back with more than 4.5 minutes to play, and are only down 7. To me, that it's moments like that where you had to dial it up. And when I talked to Patrick Queen, he was like, we have to make the plays when we're in position to make them. And like, he's like, and we're supposed to be playmakers. And to me, that's the big thing that the Steelers have to be able to do. You know, I think it goes for the defensive front as well, right? Because there were times where TJ Watt was drawing double and triple teams, and there was a couple times like Jack Sawyer got home and literally there were 3 defenders following TJ Watt the entire play. But there were other plays where TJ Watt was drawing all that attention, and the Steelers didn't capitalize on it enough. I think the biggest problem for this defense is, like you said, it's a popcorn situation where one guy is missing their assignment so badly that it's crumpling the entire design of a play.
Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate too, Chris, because they're injured now too. And Alex Highsmith is going to be out, I think, until at least after the bye. High ankle sprains can be, you know, anywhere in the 4 to 6 week range. He was in a walking boot in the locker room. Isaiah Loudermilk in a walking boot and on crutches. So it doesn't get any easier for these Steelers. And, at some point, Chris, your stars have to make plays. And Patrick Queen is making, what, $13-14 million a year?
Yep.
Jalen Ramsey, they gave him a raise. He's making over $20 million a year. I hate to criticize Watt a lot just because he is being double teamed and chipped a lot, but still, you're one of the highest paid defenders in the NFL, and you haven't had a sack in 6 games. At some point, you have to make a game-changing play on your own. But I think TJ Watt, honestly, is far down the list, when it comes to their problems. So,
Right.
when you talk about one-on-one matchups, Keanu Benton continues to lose inside in the run game. Another 100-yard performance by the Seahawks. That's now, Chris, 11 times in the past 21 games an opponent has rushed for more than 100 yards against the Steelers. I mean, we can bang on the secondary, we can bang on the line, we can bang on the inside backers. It's not just one position group on that defense. It's everyone who's having their issues at this point.
I agree. I think that's the thing, is that someone has to step up to limit those things. And there were flashes where Keanu Benton would get in the way and he would make a play. But again, it's about being consistent and consistently winning. And you were noting, in the game, we were sitting next to each other in the press box, and I was like, they're running right at Benton. And outside of the pitch at the end of the game where Payton Wilson just completely whiffed in space, the Steelers were able to limit the Seahawks when they ran out wide. Like I talked to Corbin Smith, who covers the Seahawks for Sports Illustrated, and he was telling me how last week they thought Zach Charbonnet was becoming the better running back because he was getting more execution on the run. Kenneth Walker was the one not getting yards. This week it was Kenneth Walker. But why? Most of Kenneth Walker's runs were becoming between the tackles because they were running right at Benton and right at certain guys on that D line. Now, I will say they were avoiding TJ Watt a lot. They were trying to stay away from him. And I think they kind of avoided Cam Hayward a lot. But this is why you need depth. This is why it's important to have those guys. And it does make you wonder, something that we talked about a bit last week is, the Keanu Benton situation. If teams are going to continuously run at him, just like the Jets did last week, just like the Seahawks did this week, what can you do to counter that other than to switch him out and to put him somewhere else? And I know Mike Tomlin and Cam Hayward, compared him to Javon Hargrave, both of them and Teryl Austin were encouraged, gave words of encouragement about Keanu Benton and said they're not going to move him off nose. But if that becomes an issue, you have to find a way to neutralize that. And I think it becomes that balance between, are you being patient and understanding as a coach? Or are you being stubborn as a coach when it comes to switching things up in that kind of personnel situation?
Yeah, Chris, you and I always do a show on Monday. So I think we should point out Mike Tomlin addressed the Benton Y.A. Black nose tackle question on Tuesday. And then Teryl Austin also addressed it on Thursday. So let's fill people in. Basically, what they both said was Keanu Benton has more experience, and even though he's lighter, he's better right now at recognizing blocking schemes on the inside. So I think what Austin says was, things happen really quick in there, and they just don't think Y.A. Black is going to be able to recognize schemes and do the job he has to do in there. But at some point, Chris, is it better just to have a guy who can command double teams, be a disruptive force in there, and to heck with recognizing schemes and this and that. Sometimes you just need a disturber in there to stop the running game. And that's the question that they have to answer this week. Yes, Keanu Benton is more experienced. Yes, he knows the defense better. Yes, he has better recognition skills at this point in his career, but he's probably 40 pounds less than Y.A. Black, and he's getting pushed off the line of scrimmage really far too often. So, that question is not going away. The question about their, not their toughness, but, do they have enough beef at inside linebacker with Patrick Queen and Payton Wilson? That question isn't going away either. Now, listen, Malik Harrison is injured. I don't think he's going to be back this week, but they do have Cole Holcomb that they can maybe insert in run situations, maybe in the base defense, and maybe you pull Payton Wilson off and just have him be a sub-package defender for a little while. That's not a great option because Payton does make your defense better when he executes, but he's also, 235, 240 pounds, and he just doesn't hold up well against big fullbacks or big guards who are coming at him.
And that's certainly been a problem. On top of that, you're supposed to win in space when you're that light. I mean, he is fast. We've seen him get out. But like on that 3rd and 19 against Kenneth Walker, he just takes a bad angle. And Kenneth Walker walks to the end zone untouched. And that's purely Payton Wilson's responsibility in that spot. When it's pitched out wide, you got to string out with it. If you don't make the stop, you have to hold him up until your team makes the stop. And that's not, and he didn't do that. And I think that's if you can't even do that, that becomes a serious problem. And, I don't think there's any lack of accountability when it comes to the Steelers defense. Patrick Queen took a lot of responsibility. He pointed out his 3rd and 9 miss on the blitz against Sam Darnold. And I think I hear a lot of guys saying like, hey, we got to be better here. We got to be better there. But they need to find these answers soon. And then if they don't, I think it puts the Steelers to some serious questions. Do they change the philosophy of the defense? Because people are saying, oh, they're not changing anything. They have changed things. They are much more aggressive, I think, in their blitz calls and their stunts and their twists early this season than they were last season. A lot of times last year, they were just, hey, 4-man front, here we come, or it's pretty straight up. The first drive of the game, I saw TJ Watt twisting over 2 or 3 guys. I saw this guy moving here, this guy moving there. But the thing is, when you do those things, and Jalen Ramsey said this on Friday when we talked to him in the locker room, he said, if we're going to be aggressive, we have to execute. We have to do our jobs. Otherwise, it folds the entire play. And I think that's the thing, is that guys are even in the right place. It's not that they don't know what they're supposed to be doing. They're just failing when they're in position to make a play. And that can't be this Steelers defense with the investments they've made into it.
I 100% agree. At some point, Chris, you do have to make that call. Do you go back and make it a little bit more simple for everyone until they show that they can handle it? Or do you keep being aggressive and hope that they grow into it? Teryl Austin and Mike Tomlin have a big week ahead. We've talked about the schedule since it came out in the spring, how difficult it is in the second half.
Yeah.
You cannot be 1-3 after this road game at New England and this international game in Dublin against the Vikings. If you are, season's over. So they got to turn this around, and they got to turn it around quick on defense.
We'll talk about what they need to do on offense next on the North Shore Drive podcast from the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. Chris Carter, Ray Fittipaldo, stick with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the North Shore Drive podcast from the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. Chris Carter, Ray Fittipaldo. Ray, this episode is also brought to you by Goldberg, Persky & White. If you are diagnosed with mesothelioma or lung cancer, call your local attorneys at Goldberg, Persky & White. For over 40 years, their firm has represented thousands of lung cancer and mesothelioma victims. Call 1-800-COMPLEX or visit gpwlaw.com for a free consultation. Thanks again for them sponsoring our show. Ray, this offense, we said last week, was extremely efficient. This week, they not as much. When I asked Aaron Rodgers about over the middle passes and crossing patterns, he said we didn't call a lot. But he said, they were in zone and a lot of too high shells, and that can kind of discourage it. And when I heard that and I kind of looked back at it, I was like, well, that's when you need to be able to run the ball, because then when teams feel that they can drop back 2 safeties and take away more parts of the field in pass, you need to punish them, because if there's 2 high safeties, most likely that means there's just 7 in the box, and that's when you should be able to run the ball. And the Steelers had moments where they ran the ball, but it wasn't consistent. Jaylen Warren runs for less than 4 yards per carry in the game, even though he made some really good plays. To me, I think that they saw early on what can happen if there isn't a run game that's a consistent threat when teams are in a situation to just back off and say, hey, beat us on the ground.
Yeah, despite the investments that they've made in the offensive line, Chris, they're just not there yet. They are not in the position where they can take over games with their physicality. And, to your point, they only averaged 3.4 yards per carry, but I thought the running game was a little bit better. I thought the short passing game, Warren got out and did a lot of stuff with short passes, even the one, even if you take away the 65-yarder, which was tremendous throw by Aaron Rodgers and even better run by Warren. They were getting him out in space, and they were letting him get some yards. That's what you have to do when they're going to play cover 2 on you all day. And there weren't many situations. I kept looking at DK Metcalf on the outside, and every single time there was a safety over over top of DK. So they weren't going to give it up to DK. They might have had a few opportunities with their other receivers, but when I look at it, just not enough involvement from the tight ends yesterday. A couple of short passes to Jonnu Smith. Freiermuth drops the big play down the field, probably would have been a 40-yard game. Just missed opportunities. And yeah, Chris, it's difficult when you don't have an offensive line that can take advantage of those situations. It's going to be a long season, and you just go down that line. Broderick Jones and Troy Fautanu, first-round picks. Zach Frazier, a second-round pick. McCormick, a fourth-round pick. Sayamalu, $8 million a year free agent. I mean, there's a lot of investments and money tied up into that group, and they're just not developing at the rate I think that the Steelers had hoped.
I agree. And I think that's something that they need to see soon. I felt early on, especially Broderick Jones, I thought had a better game this week, which was kind of crazy after last week. I thought the bigger problems came from Isaac Sayamalu and Troy Fautanu in this game. Troy Fautanu, getting beat a few times in some rough situations. This needs to be an offensive line. They don't have to figure it all right now, but this needs to be an offensive line that wins something in the game, whether it's pass protection to give Aaron Rodgers all the time he wants, or it's run blocking to plow the road. Because even if you don't have the pass protection down and Aaron Rodgers does take some heat here and there, the way that you protect him is that you run the ball so effectively that teams are like, we can't pass rush as much. We gotta be ready to take on the run. But if teams aren't afraid of your run game, not only do they back off into coverage a lot more, they also send more aggressive pass rushes on key downs. And so that's, I think, what happened a lot in this game was Aaron Rodgers wasn't able to find guys as efficiently as he was in week one. Even with all the pressure he faced them, there were just plenty of times where guys are breaking open. And so the Seahawks looked at the table. They said, okay, let's back off into a soft zone. Let's see if we can just get a little bit of pressure with four guys, and let's see if we can if we can get him to not see the open spots on the field. And they did that for the most part in this game.
Yeah, listen, the ball has to be out quick for Aaron Rodgers in this offense right now. Unless you're doing play action pass and you're going to trust your tackles to hold up, you don't want Aaron Rodgers holding on to the ball. There was that one scramble yesterday.
Yeah.
I think they were at like the 40 or 35 going in, and Aaron took a big hit. He was going for a first down. He took a big hit. He took some other big hits in the pocket, Chris. And right now, I know it's only 2 games, but it's the only 2 games they've played. They're on pace to give up 60 sacks.
Yep.
Do you really think Aaron Rodgers, at 41 years old, he's going to turn 42 in a couple of months, do you really think he's going to last the entire season if he gets hit as much as he's been hit in the first 2 weeks? We're going to see Mason Rudolph before Halloween if this keeps up. So they got a lot to fix. It's disheartening in some ways just because I thought they would be further along with the offensive line, but right now it just doesn't look good.
No, I agree. And I agree with you on Aaron Rodgers, and you can't expect him to just stay healthy with the hits that he's taken, because he's taken some hard ones. I mean, a perfect example, someone who's much younger in their prime, who I said I wasn't sure they were going to make it through the season. Joe Burrow is now out the next 3 months. The Steelers won't even play him in the regular season this year because he's out. And I said that could, I wasn't sure if he'd make it the whole season because the offensive line was so bad. And lo and behold, now he's out for 3 months with a turf toe injury because he got sacked in the way he got tackled affected his foot. And Aaron Rodgers is a lot older than Joe Burrow. So you cannot afford to lose that guy because you're not blocking as well. And again, it's not just pass blocking, it's run blocking too. They have to be more consistent there. And again, I thought there were good moments like the Jalen Warren 65-yard catch and run. I thought it was set up by Broderick Jones, perfectly handling the twist. A guy tried to beat him to the inside this time. Instead of letting him breeze by, he just mushes him right into Isaac Sayamalu, and that allows Rodgers to roll out to his left and be able to buy some time. It puts the guy who's covering Jalen Warren on an island. He hits him. Jalen Warren does what he does. And the Steelers need more plays like that where guys are winning and allowing Aaron Rodgers to adjust. You can trust that he's going to make the right decision most of the time. Because even in this game, like you said, there were times where he put the ball right where he was supposed to. That the deep ball to Pat Freiermuth on the free play because there was a defensive penalty. Pat Freiermuth dropped it down on the sideline in the opening drive. The pass he threw to Pat Freiermuth that Calvin Austin tipped, it would look like it was going right to Pat Freiermuth's hands. There was at least 1, maybe 2 drops from DK Metcalf. Those are the plays that you got to come up for your 41-year-old quarterback who'll be 42 in November.
Yeah, I mean, your point on Burrow is good, and I'll bring it back to Rodgers. But, I mean, Chris, he's one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. And how many season-ending injuries has he had now?
3.
I mean, this one isn't season-ending, but for all intents and purposes, it really is, because he's going to miss a huge bulk of the season. And tying that back into the Steelers and Rodgers, I mean, I keep going back to that throw to Freiermuth on the run, and he just puts it out there perfect, 40 yards.
Perfectly. Right in the breadbasket.
He can still play. Chris, he can still play, but he needs an offensive line. And this is probably something that we can, tackle with the project after the season leading up to the draft. But I think there's a big issue in the NFL right now with offensive linemen coming into the league, how they're coached in college, and then how they're expected to play in the NFL. The college game right now is totally different. Like, these guys never have their hand in the ground. That forces the teams like the Steelers in the NFL. How often do you see guards up, not in a 3-point stance? Tackles almost always in 2-point stances. It's hard to generate the running game. And I'm not singling out Pat Meyer. I think offensive line coaching across the NFL suffers as a result, because you get these guys coming into the league. They test well, they look the part, but they don't really know how to execute. And it's just a big problem, not only in Pittsburgh with the Steelers, but across the NFL, like we said, with the Bengals and a bunch of other teams too.
Absolutely. We'll have all the coverage for you for the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette all week long as the Steelers get ready for their Week 3 road matchup against the Patriots this Sunday at 1 o'clock. But don't worry, the Steelers are in their locker room this week. We'll be there today. We'll be there Tuesday for Mike Tomlin's press conference, and then Wednesday and Thursday and Friday as they get ready for this next showdown. Keep it here with the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. Chris Carter, Ray Fittipaldo. Read Ray Fittipaldo's report card where he gave grades across the board on the positions and the coaching and where he saw the biggest problems. Check out Mike Carter's critiques series where I break down where those third down failures came the most and what the Steelers need to do to get better in those situations. There's a lot more coming at you on some Steelers coverage here from the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. We'll see you soon here on the North Shore Drive podcast. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the North Shore Drive podcast from the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. If you watch this video on YouTube, please like the video and subscribe to our channel. For all the sports coverage from the Post-Gazette that we have to offer, visit post-gazette.com.